After the battle with Raditz, the impending doom of the Saiyans' arrival in 1 year reaches many of the other characters, and this call to action sets many of the other plot lines in motion. Gohan is kidnapped again, this time by Piccolo, who believes he can train Gohan into controlling his hidden strength so he can use it against the Saiyans in the coming conflict. Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, and Chaozu, Goku's friends and fellow martial artists, are recruited for training by Goku's former master, God, or Kame, who is also the creator of the Dragon Balls, and is also basically the Dr. Jekyll to Piccolo's Mr. Hyde. But in this case, they live separately in body, but not in soul. They are bound as one, and if one dies, the other will as well. Also, thanks to Kame, Goku has been allowed to keep his body in the afterlife, so he can train with a god even higher than, well, God, called King Kai, to give him a better chance against the Saiyans when he is resurrected in a year's time. That's a lot going on, but Toriyama manages to fit basically all of that into just about 9 chapters in the manga, which keeps the pacing pretty laser focused, which is really good in its own right. But if we look to the anime's adaptation of the Saiyan saga, which is the version I experienced back then, they expanded it into about 16 episodes. And this was due to a term many associate with Dragon Ball: filler. Both the anime and the manga were both being produced at the same time weekly. 1 week would equal 1 manga chapter and 1 anime episode. You would think that they would just put a chapter's worth of material into an episode each week. However, often a 20-minute episode could cover 2 chapters worth of material, maybe even 3. This would lead to the anime catching up to the manga, which wouldn't work because the anime is adapting the manga, not the other way around. So to avoid this problem, the anime team added filler. This could range from extended scenes, new original episodes, and even whole new story arcs independent from Toriyama's story. Despite it fixing this problem, filler would create a artistic problem. Added scenes could ruin the pacing, and added plot lines could sometimes create inconsistencies and plot holes. However, within this section of the Saiyan saga, the filler isn't just great, but I would say it's almost essential watching. Not only does it flesh out the plot points I laid out earlier, but it also brought the world of Dragon Ball to life. Many writers and creators devote their lives to creating and developing fictional worlds that not only feel real, but reflect aspects of our own world. On the other hand, in the world of Dragon Ball, dinosaurs, they're just kind of a thing. Toriyama was clearly never one for an intricate and well thought out world. Half the time he probably just drew whatever popped into his mind, which led to a strange world that, yes, wasn't the most thought out, but reflected who he was. Even so, I must admit, it's pretty crazy that Toriyama introduces aliens and the afterlife in the span of just a few chapters. He was able to do this by making these plot developments important to the story and, specifically, the direction of the characters. But also, it comes down to how Toriyama presents these concepts. I mean, what do you think of when you think of heaven? The answer probably isn't a bunch of dudes in office wear. Toriyama made heaven a pretty typical workspace, where people have to wait in a big queue to be judged. It's a funny concept, but it's also very creative and memorable. We view the other world from Goku's perspective, and in order to get to King Kai's and receive his special training, he must run across Snake Way, which is 1 million kilometers long. This is a perfect task for Goku to face as a character, because he has always faced impossible odds with optimism and determination. Many would just turn back before taking even a step onto Snake Way. But not Goku. He just goes for it, and that's what makes him such an inspiring character. In the manga, Toriyama doesn't really focus on Goku's journey across Snake Way, because the point of it is that he runs across the road and he gets there in the end. But the anime team decided to add a few episodes to Goku's time on Snake Way, which led to them taking the setting of the otherworld and fleshing it out. Along the road, Goku meets a road sweeper, which is just funny and expands the concept of the afterlife being a workspace. Goku takes a nap with this guy, which leads to him falling off Snake Way into hell, which is a risk discussed in the manga, but only followed up on here. Episode 13, Goz and Mez, or Hands Off, Emma-sama's Secret Fruit. When Goku finds himself in hell, he tries to eat some mysterious magical fruit, but is stopped by Goz and Mez, two ogres who challenge Goku to a series of games. If Goku wins, they will show him the way out, back onto Snake Way. Yeah, the whole Office Space vibe of heaven really carries over to hell. These two ogres are just sick and tired of their mundane job of giving tour guides to dead souls. Goku beats them at their own games and is shown the secret exit back to Snake Way. But, just when he thinks he's outmatched these two, he realises that he's back at the start. This is a funny moment, but back then I couldn't not feel a little deflated after all the progress Goku had made on Snake Way. However, these days I think it just reinforces Goku's determination. Despite this huge setback, he keeps going, and when we see him next, he's back to where he fell off anyway, so it doesn't really feel like padding. Episode 14, Princess Snake, or Such Sweet Temptation, the Snake Princess Sama's Hospitality. Goku finds himself in the palace of Princess Snake. Despite her whole seductive vibe, she actually just wants to eat Goku, and the episode is basically a series of gags of her trying to get Goku to go unconscious. Goku is later drugged, and it's then revealed that the whole palace is an illusion. The palace itself is Princess Snake, in giant snake form, and Goku uses her body against her and ties her into a knot and gets away. After this point, it felt like Goku was on Snake Way for a while. Until I saw an episode pop up called The End of Snake Way. And in this episode, I saw a moment that I will never forget. We see Goku at the end of his rope, wondering if Snake Way will ever end. In that moment, he sees it. The end. He runs in excitement. He's done it. He's finally done it. But there's nothing at the end. Just an endless yellow sky. Until he looks up to see not a grand palace, but a tiny planet with a cozy house on top of it. Goku has found the legendary King Kai. What made this scene so impactful was what led up to it. In the anime, we get to see Goku's journey across Snake Way, and the many challenges he encounters. Because of this scene feels truly earned. Now that we've looked at how filler content was added upon Goku's journey in the other worlds, we will now turn our attention to another story happening on Earth. Gohan, the son of Goku, is a beloved character, mainly due to the things that make him different from his father. Goku was raised in the wild and has always been independent even as a young boy, but Gohan is really just an ordinary child. When we first meet him, we find out that Goku's wife, Chi-Chi, wants him to grow up to be a great scholar someday. This is played off as kind of a joke in the manga, because of the way it highlights how different Gohan is from Goku. But in the first episode of the anime, where I first met Gohan, we get to see this difference between the two on full display. In an extra filler scene, we get to see Gohan exploring the same woods Goku grew up in, the place where we first met him in the very first panel of the manga. In that panel, we see Goku in his element, enjoying the wildlife around him. Gohan, on the other hand, gets lost. Goku comes looking for Gohan and finds him about to fall off a waterfall. Gohan disappears into the water, with Goku believing he has lost his son, until he hears the familiar sound of Gohan's cries of fear. Gohan is safely hanging from a tree branch above the waterfall. Goku thinks nothing of it, but this scene plants the seed of Gohan's hidden power that he would use against Raditz. Moments after Gohan's violent outburst against Raditz, the next thing he sees is his father's greatest foe, Piccolo, towering above him. He is told by Piccolo that his father has died, and he must now train and harness this hidden power of his in order to use it against the Saiyans in 1 year. Gohan, to begin with, doesn't really believe that he has any sort of power, until Piccolo throws him towards a mountain, and then, just like at the waterfall, just like against Raditz, Gohan's hidden power awakens, and this time, he can see the aftermath. Gohan is probably aware that he doesn't really have a choice whether to accept the training or not, but after seeing this display of his own power, he decides to go along with Piccolo's wishes and accepts the training. Piccolo tells him that for the first 6 months of this training, Gohan must simply survive on his own in the wild and fend for himself. After that, Piccolo will then go on to teach him how to fight. Gohan is then left there, alone and scared. But his hidden power will always be there, hidden beneath the surface. This comes into play when Gohan is attacked by a dinosaur. His hidden powers come alive, teleporting him atop a giant cliff. In this kind of situation, Goku would probably just jump off, and we know that Gohan could probably do the same, but he doesn't. He's trapped up there, because deep down he may have all of his father's strength, but he doesn't have his father's mindset. This mindset is made up of qualities that Gohan is missing, qualities that many characters within classic coming-of-age stories are also missing. Courage, independence, and a belief in oneself. But by the end of the Saiyan saga, Gohan takes his first step into gaining all three. And thanks to these filler episodes, we get to see this shift in his character in far more detail. To create even more parallels with his father, Gohan doesn't just climb down, he destroys the rock beneath his feet, thanks to the full moon, which awakens a Saiyan's transformation into the Uzaru. This turns Gohan into a rampaging beast, just like his father would before his tail was removed, which, once it is removed, the transformation ceases. But of course, Piccolo doesn't know this, so he decides to, as you do, blow up the moon. Anyway, from there, Piccolo gives Gohan a new set of clothes and a sword, and promises him that, from this point onward, he's on his own. And this is where we begin to deviate into anime-only material. Episode 9, The Strangest Robot. Or, sorry Robot-san, The Tears That Vanished in the Desert. Despite his new clothes and even a sword, Gohan still finds himself being chased by wildlife, which gets him into even more of a worse situation. Gohan is now trapped in a cave full of old ruins. This is the first instance of the world being given just a little bit more texture. Dragon Ball usually has wide open wastelands, but this place is dark and isolated. However, Gohan is not alone down here. In this cave is an abandoned Capsule Corp robot. Gohan turns on the robot again and again, looking for its help, but the robot refuses and tells him to put him back into standby mode so he can conserve his power for when he is rescued. From this, the robot then tells him a way of escaping. Through a narrow tunnel, Gohan finds the way out, but in his way is a deep chasm. Gohan now finds himself in a similar situation he found himself in when he was on the cliff. He is trapped, scared, and alone.
I don't need to see anything down here. You're wasting precious power.
That's better.
Why, you meddlesome little... Hey, you really are little. You're going to have to learn how to take care of yourself. Now stop bothering me.
Gohan then tries to dig the robot out, but it causes a cave-in. The robot then uses the last reserves of its power to throw Gohan out of the cave across the chasm. The cave completely falls apart, and Gohan finds what's left of the robot. The robot powers down for the very last time. In the manga, after Piccolo leaves Gohan with his new clothes and a sword, the next thing we see is Gohan pretty well adapted to the harsh realities of the wild. But in the anime, we get to see this change within him on screen. After the robot's death, Gohan walks away with tears in his eyes, but with a look of resolve. This look right here tells us that Gohan has taken his first true step in his training. Despite that pain and tragedy of what Gohan just went through, he will keep going. When I watched this episode back then, I found this story bittersweet, but also inspiring. Across the next few episodes, Gohan inhabits lush environments that give the world even more texture and even beauty. Gohan now falls in line with how he is in the manga. He is now more carefree and confident, and even starts using the same dinosaur that he once ran from in fear as a food resource by cutting off bits of its tail. At this point in the manga, Toriyama skips ahead to Gohan training with Piccolo, but before that happens in the anime, there is a filler episode that bridges the gap between Gohan's time in the wild to Piccolo's actual training. Episode 16, Plight of the Children, or Run Gohan, Longing for Paozu, where Chi-Chi is waiting. In the manga, Gohan's time in the wild is basically summarised as Gohan survives for 6 months. However, in the anime, once Gohan gains confidence within the wild, he tries to do what any kid would do. He tries to go home. After Gohan discovers that he has been on an island for most of his time in the wild, he decides to make a boat in order to find his way home. Unfortunately, once Gohan gets out to the sea, he gets caught in a storm. It gets so bad that even Piccolo realizes that Gohan might be in trouble. After the storm, Gohan washes up on a beach and is found by a brother and sister called Rom and Chico. They are part of a community of orphans who are also being targeted by a group of care workers who want to take them away to an orphanage by force. The only thing standing in their way is the leader of this group, Pigoro, who has been fighting them off whenever they make an attempt at taking the other orphans. Gohan is taken in by Pigoro, and we get a lovely montage and handful of scenes of Gohan just hanging out with these kids. However, beneath the slice of life there is a sense of darkness to this story. Pigoro brings up the tidal wave, which deprived him and the rest of the orphans of their parents, and left an unhealing scar upon the area. The environment of this episode is full of broken roads and demolished buildings, which take on a strange beauty of their own. Beyond that though, the scars of this place make it feel truly lived in and alive. Gohan later confesses that he is trying to get home, back to his mother. Pigoro then finds out that Chi-Chi lives within driving distance and tells Gohan that they will all drop him home. But in order to do so, they need to steal a car from one of the care workers. When they arrive at the orphan's hideout the next morning, everything goes to plan until The police show up to assist the care workers. Within this moment, Pigoro has to make a choice. Thinking back, he remembers what one of the care workers said. Maybe some of the children would like a better life, a nice warm bed to sleep in. In that moment, Pigoro grabs Gohan and drives away, leaving the orphans who once called him hero. Once Gohan is dropped off, he is outraged at Pigoro, but he claims that they need a real home, and that he could have only done so much for them. Gohan asks him what he's going to do now, and he says, I don't know, there's a big world out there. And how big this world felt to me after watching these episodes as a kid. Gohan then runs back to his home. He is finally 3, but when he sees his house, his joy turns to sadness. Gohan remembers how the other orphans were amazed with everything Gohan had in his life. A place to call home, and parents that loved him and protected him. He remembered what Pigoro said to him. There's a big world out there. If Gohan goes home now, everything Gohan has, and the world in which I got so immersed in as a kid, could be destroyed. Upon realizing his responsibility, Gohan runs away into the wild and breaks down into tears. And then, and only then, does Piccolo make his reappearance.
Gohan, what is your mission? Say it!
To prepare for the Saiyans, to fight! And to beat them!
Then let's go back.
Right!
That's the way, Gohan! This isn't the time.
During these episodes of Gohan in the wild and Goku in the other world, we see stories that flesh out the world of Dragon Ball. These places that they inhabit feel real and truly feel alive, and they got me fully immersed into the world. But beyond these episodes providing world building, these episodes also gave us moments of character building. The journey across Snake Way acts as a perfect way of showing what makes Goku such a special character. And the episodes with Gohan feel like a true coming-of-age story. We get to see Gohan go from a sheltered child to a confident, brave warrior who has accepted the responsibilities placed upon him. Because of these episodes, I didn't just fall in love with the world of Dragon Ball, I fell in love with the characters as well. Now, I didn't cover every filler episode in the Saiyan Saga, but the stuff with Krillin and the others is also really good. But not to repeat myself, they basically offer the same kind of great world building and character building. Another thing these episodes offer is something that I mentioned before. This sense of build-up. Goku running across Snake Way to King Kai's place, Krillin and Bulma recruiting the rest of the Dragon Team, and Gohan's 6 months in the wild leading up to his training with Piccolo. These are all short-term goals that get paid off. But all of these goals revolve around one goal, one destination. The Saiyans are coming. This is what these episodes are truly building up to. And because my brother wouldn't always be free to watch, we ended up watching these episodes over the course of maybe a month, which made it feel like a real chunk of time had passed. It feels like they're getting closer and closer with every episode, which made it so exciting to watch. I remember the narrator dropping the bombshell that the Saiyans just passed Jupiter. Like that's so close! It felt like every second counted for our heroes. But when they did, the Saiyans, when they did eventually arrive, I remember my brother turning to me and probably saying the cruelest words I've ever heard in my life. Well, we'll have to end it there for today. I remember saying to him over and over again, we can't finish there. They're here, they're finally here. All that build-up had created this exciting atmosphere when the Saiyans finally touched down on Earth. And now that they have, we have reached the 3rd act of the Saiyan Saga, and believe me when I say that all this build-up
has truly been worth it.